shit, you dumbass.
Right? Yeah?
How about that? And they timed them perfectly.
Booyah. All right.
What's up, Marks?
How you doing?
Welcome to episode 171 of everyone's favorite podcast.
About professional wrestling. About professional wrestling, damn it.
No, we are everyone's favorite podcast, period.
Sure. Well, you know what? Let's go with that.
Everyone's favorite podcast of all time. The F and Marks.
Yeah. I'm Jay.
And I am the brainless one.
I spoke last week of WrestleMania and really thought to myself, you know what? If I'm entertained and this is better than WrestleMania 9, you know what? This is a victory for them. And they far exceeded it, in my view.
It's pretty sad that we have to use WrestleMania 9 as the bar that you have to set for like shitty fucking WrestleManias. And it's funny how we look at all the just the bars that have been set in professional wrestling, just period, with some of the stuff. Like, I mean, if you think about it, the bar of Hall of Famers is Coco Beware and Tori Wilson and who's the tag team? The Bushwhackers, and Drew Carey. What's up, Tommy?
What's up, Tommy? Thanks for tuning in, brother.
The fact that WrestleMania 9 is the bar of freaking WrestleManias. You just got to be better than WrestleMania 9 to be somewhat entertaining. You know, when it comes to all wrestling shows altogether, Clash of the Champions 13 is definitely the lowest, lowest of the lows. It's so bad and it's bad and good at the same time. But yeah, WrestleMania happened this past weekend. I was thoroughly entertained. I do have.
It's still weird that there was no audience, but. Before we get into the full review of that show, I mean, there are news and notes that kind of happened in the last week that we'll get to, and then we'll kind of get into our full WrestleMania stuff. But I mean, give your kind of basic synopsis of it.
Well, my basic synopsis is that WrestleMania had an opportunity. WWE had an opportunity this year to deliver in a way that they have never done before because of the fact that with what's going on with the coronavirus. They weren't going to be able to do certain things that they normally would do for wrestling shows. Happy quarantine, Larry. I thought that there was a couple of matches that really stood out for me in a very high positive opinion of. There was a lot of things about WrestleMania last weekend that I was very happy about. There were certain things about WrestleMania. I mean, as a fickle wrestling fan that I am, I could say that no matter what they do, I'm always going to find something to be upset about. And lo and behold,
thanks for tuning in all the way from Germany, man.
Ooh,
beautiful,
very cool. There's certain things that I thought that they did last weekend that I was very disappointed in. I mean, that
happens all the time. I mean, even the best WrestleManias, there's usually something that you're kind of like, I don't know about that. So, yeah.
And for instance, WrestleMania 17, which in my opinion is the greatest WrestleMania of all time. WrestleMania 17 was also the WrestleMania I stopped watching wrestling I took a 2 or 3 year hiatus because of that. And it was because of the main event. I just like the whole Steve Austin joining forces with Vince McMahon really pissed me off and just stuff like that. But I mean, as a whole, I was thoroughly entertained. And Stephanie McMahon last week came out and even said that what they were doing was they were using WrestleMania as an outlet so that we would not think about what is happening with all these people dying and everything like that, with the coronavirus and just.
All right, hold on a second. It looks like Facebook is kind of tisming, so keep going on that.
But I mean, as a whole, I thoroughly enjoyed WrestleMania, and I was call me a skeptic because I typically am a lot of times. Especially when it comes to Vince McMahon and a lot of decisions that he has made over the years and a lot of things he's done over the years. I enjoyed it. At the end of the day, I enjoyed WrestleMania last weekend. Certain things that I enjoyed more so than other aspects of WrestleMania. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Yes, the Boneyard match was awesome. I agree with that. The Boneyard match was fantastic. I love the cinema. I can't even think of what's the proper
cinematic.
The cinematic aspect of the Boneyard match was done so perfectly. I really enjoyed the Firefly Funhouse. I enjoyed the Firefly Funhouse more than anything else last weekend. In fact, I would say that the Firefly Funhouse was better than 2/3 of the WrestleManias, previously between the other 35. But it was because it was something different. The fact that it wasn't something that we were expecting. Like, we didn't know what to expect with the Firefly Funhouse. We had no idea. All we knew was that John Cena was fighting Bray Wyatt in a Firefly Funhouse match. That's all we knew. We didn't know if that meant that there was going to be all this stuff, like he was going to take like the pig and the rabbit and use that as weapons. Oh, I thought I was going to burp. And it was going to lead to that being, the Firefly Funhouse. Wow, interesting. Tommy enjoyed both the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse, but everything else he just kind of like tuned out for.
All right, everybody, we're back on Facebook. Hopefully this thing doesn't freeze up on us again.
I thought both world title matches were a little short.
We'll get into that in a bit. We'll get into
that. But all in all, I thoroughly enjoyed WrestleMania last weekend.
All right, well, this thing is still having issues. So, yeah. Yes. And we'll talk about that. So,
yes, yeah, we'll definitely get into that a little bit more, Tommy. So what do we got? News and notes. You said you wanted to go into.
Yeah, we have a few news and notes that I'd like to get into at this moment. Basically, Revival were officially granted their release from WWE, and they've been asking for a release for a while, and WWE kind of because of AEW decided we're not sure about this. And honestly, I think the coronavirus has a bit to do with what happened here. They're like going, well, people aren't seeing them on TV, and this, it is what it is. They don't want to be here, and we don't think we could do anything with them. So, all right, well, let's let them go. And, they've already come up with new names. Scott Dawson,
$1 million idea for names that the Revival has now come up with.
Scott Dawson is now Dax Harwood. Dax Harwood. All right.
Terrible.
Hey. And then we've got...
That one's bad. This one's even better.
And Dash Wilder is now called Cash Wheeler. So those are the names that they've got. I know that they trademarked an awful lot of things fairly recently to try to, not have WWE own everything, but there are certain things that WWE trademarked from them. So, I hope for the best for them, and it sounds like these guys are going to end up on AEW sooner rather than later. So,
the one thing I will take away from this is the fact that I think that they'd be better suited to go to NWA. They have the look of like what NWA used to be and what NWA is trying to, rebrand itself again. They definitely look like they look like NWA stars. Talented tag team like the Revival who becomes available, and the fact that the interesting part about them being available is WWE said that they can sign with whoever they want immediately and not have to go through the 90-day no-compete clause that a lot of other teams usually have to go through. And I think this is a good move for them. They felt like they weren't utilized the way they were. It's because Vince McMahon doesn't know how to promote tag team wrestling in WWE anymore with all these makeshift tag teams that are coming in there and winning tag team titles over and over again. I think that this is the best thing for them to go to, is to an organization who has already, in the short period of time, established their tag team division.
Well, as much as I understand what you're saying about them having the look of what the old school NWA guys have, but if you're talking about them and their livelihood, AEW is the better move, or New Japan would be the better move because they'll get paid more.
Right.
And getting to Japan is probably a little bit tough right now, and they if they end up in AEW, I think they'll be treated correctly.
Yeah.
And I wish the best for them because when they were having their like classic matches down in NXT, it's like I can't wait to see these guys up on the main roster going against some of the teams, and they had some great matches against those teams, but it just Vince McMahon was just like start, stop with them. And you know what? After a while, you lose credibility. So, you know what? If they need to move on to maintain their credibility, then so be it. And they've moved on now, and let's see where they end up going.
Agreed. I do hope for the best for them as well. What else?
So, all right, we've got that. We learned yesterday night that they're going to have a 25th anniversary show to celebrate Triple H's years in the WWE. Now, as much as like they had stuff for the Undertaker going back 5 years ago for his 25th year, like there's always that caveat with anything with Triple H when they're trying to pay tribute to him, where it's like, and he's getting paid tribute to because he's the boss's son-in-law and he's married to the boss's daughter.
And most importantly, and I can't stress this part enough, there's nothing in this world that is more loved than the fact that Triple H loves himself.
One thing I will say for this that I'm like going, okay, this makes it so at least WWE, whether it's on SmackDown or Raw, when they're giving their tributes, at least it will limit the amount of people that they will have in the arena that night. So that, like, you know, hopefully it's somebody who's sent in a message as opposed to this big celebration throughout the arena.
We know Ric Flair's going to be there. There's no fucking way that Ric Flair.
Well, there's going to be a lot of people that will send in messages, but, you know, this makes it so WWE does not have to produce as much new television, which would keep people further apart and hopefully make this, keep us entertained while keeping everybody safe. So, there's that.
I've never been less looking forward to anything in my entire life than I am about the Triple H 25-year anniversary. That starts. Doesn't just happen. It starts on SmackDown in 2 weeks from last night, which is kind of funny because I actually brought it up to you because what happens in 2 weeks from this weekend?
And I said April 24th.
Yes, it was April 24th.
But it's something exciting for you. Honestly, I think it's as dull as watching paint dry. And I remember what happened last year during the first day of said thing.
Was it worse than watching paint dry?
Watching you, no, your reaction was great. That was one of my favorite things. But as far as like watching the actual draft,
the brainless tism that I had last year.
Yeah. But the NFL draft will be happening
in 2 weeks from this weekend.
So that will be competing with that, but who knows? I mean, I think, yes, there are some crossover between NFL fans and WWE fans, but I don't think it's going to impact ratings too much.
I don't think so either. But the fact is, it gives people an outlet. I'd rather watch who the Giants draft in the third round with 97th pick.
And how long does that take? About 5 seconds? Then you could sit there and go back to watching wrestling.
Go back and watch Triple H, talk about how much Triple H loves Triple H. Yeah,
yes.
I don't think so.
Come on. Then you could watch the Big Show talk about himself in his new show, right? And that's another note. Big Show did reappear on WWE TV, and it looks like he will be the first man to challenge Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship.
You see the excitement on my face that the Big Show's back.
And I know you really want to see his show on Netflix too.
I'd rather watch. I'd rather be married to Carol Baskin. Boom.
And get fed to tigers.
And get killed and fed to tigers.
Beautiful. That's great.
If you haven't seen it yet, then I'm sorry. But that bitch, Carol Baskin.
All right. And then another thing that is coming up is, so with WWE, the way they've been trying to branch out through the world they've been trying to expand the NXT brand. So we've got NXT UK, and the next iteration is supposed to be NXT Japan.
Ooh.
So NXT Japan, supposedly, WWE was in talks with like Pro Wrestling Noah and All Japan Pro Wrestling. Both of them more or less told WWE like last year to go screw. But because of the coronavirus and because both of these organizations have not, they're not New Japan. They don't have, money flowing in, and so much so that they can absorb this. So they're in a little bit more of a spot right now where it's like, we could use that money. So basically, WWE does not want to sit there and start something from the ground up. They want to sit there and like, all right, you've got an existing infrastructure for a pro wrestling company. We would like to buy you so we could use that infrastructure, and we'll make a performance center, but we're going to use the infrastructure that's already in place to get this thing started up. So
Interesting.
and originally they were going to try to do that for 2020. The coronavirus has pushed this back to 2021, but it could be something interesting.
Kind of like the coronavirus is going to have me push back my 37th birthday until 2021. So I'll be 36 for a little bit longer.
Right.
Because I'm not celebrating. I can't celebrate.
So we have one WWE related thing that's expanding, and then one that is contracting. It appears, it's not 100% sure, but pretty sure that the XFL is done again. And it's sad because it legitimately is because of the coronavirus. It's not because Vince McMahon fucked up so badly this time like he did the first time. It's specifically because like they got through half the regular season games and then just had to stop playing. So they had no fans, nobody buying the stuff, no television ratings, so no ad revenue coming in. So I think some of the money that Vince is losing right now in WWE is probably not helping him with decide whether or not XFL is going to ever come back again.
Well, the fact that he had to lose, I think it was $74 million by not having WrestleMania in Tampa, and he was the reason that WrestleMania got canceled last weekend from Tampa Bay, and had to do it in the Performance Center. So that's a big nut that he lost. The fact that he put a lot of money into the XFL, and he's going to lose that money too. So Vince McMahon is just falling flat on his face over and over and over again. And I'll tell you right now,
well, I mean, you can't say that he's like WrestleMania. He couldn't do anything about it.
So don't
He
have
already
it.
put the money in.
I'm just saying.
He would have lost more money if he didn't do it. And XFL, that again, you're going to blame the Vince McMahon, like, even though it's the coronavirus that's causing this. Basically, everybody's saying you can't get together in big groups. You can't. So how is that Vince's fault?
It was always Vince's fault. Whenever shit hits the fan, wrestling related, it's Vince's fault.
Sure.
So that's just my opinion. That and the fact that what?
Mike is calling me Cowboy Daisy Duke because it looks like my shorts are short. They're not really short. They just kind of come back. The cowboy hat, this is Macho Man Randy Savage, in case you don't know. So anyway.
Yes, top move is picking boogers.
Yes. Yeah, okay. I'm pretty good at that.
Okay,
yeah.
There you go.
Beautiful. Anyway.
So it's unfortunate. I really had a lot of hope for the XFL. It was a lot better this time around than it was back in 2001. I think it had a chance to really go somewhere as like an alternative, not to be like we're competing with WWE with WWE, right?
Well,
with the NFL, but it was still better for me. Any football is better than no football. That's how I look at it. And I'm telling you right now, the New York Guardians, we're going to win the XFL championship this year.
Sure.
Excuse me.
But bless you.
Oh, coronavirus.
Right.
I can't really say that out.
So we had that. There was the Dark Side of the Ring, which this week's topic was Brawl for All, which it was a pretty interesting episode.
The Brawl for All is definitely one that I was rather intrigued by, too, for all the episodes. Just because the whole concept of what the Brawl for All was, what the Brawl for All was actually meant to be, and what the Brawl for All ended up being.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you.
The Brawl for All, Dark Side of the Ring was interesting. Thought the first 3 episodes of the season were more interesting, but they were dealing with craziness. Like I said earlier, a few weeks ago, the one I'm looking forward to is the Dino Bravo one.
Yeah.
Because like there's a lot of kind of speculation here saying hopefully they'll be able to clear up a little bit of that. Maybe they'll be able to talk to some people who we haven't ever heard from.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, it was the same thing like what they did with season 1 with the whole Bruiser Brody thing. A lot of people were afraid to say anything that were involved with the show in Puerto Rico that ultimately where Bruiser Brody passed away at when he got killed.
Tony Atlas thought he was going to die, which is why he's barely talked about it.
Yep. And the same thing with Dutch Mantle, even though Dutch Mantle really didn't see much about it. But you don't know what's gonna, what is going to come of that. And this week's episode is no different because you got Superfly Jimmy Snuka and the whole story behind what happened with his girlfriend back in the 80s where Vince McMahon basically showed up with a briefcase full of money and said, don't worry about it.
Yeah. So interesting topics.
I can't wait to talk about that one. That was just put in the chat.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, man, why don't we get into that? I think we hit most of the news and notes.
Wait, hold on. Just make sure. One more thing I wanted to bring up, and it was during the WrestleMania promo, or not really during the WrestleMania promo, but it was during WrestleMania. I thought was rather interesting, where WWE is very adamant about how they don't want CM Punk back or want to do any kind of business with him, which is the reason why he hasn't really been on Backstage. And the fact that they cut a promo on Backstage for this Tuesday, and they were talking about how Booker T and Renee Young were going to be on Backstage with Edge, and CM Punk's going to be there, and they haven't promoted it. But during the Firefly Funhouse, they actually showed CM Punk with the championship blowing a kiss as he was leaving the arena in Chicago with the WWE Championship. Yep. So I thought that was rather interesting that they actually added that as part of the video package for that.
Cool.
So, but let's get into WrestleMania from last weekend.
Yeah. Well, and since Mike had brought up, what are our thoughts on Charlotte Flair winning the NXT Women's title? Now,
for all you new listeners on here, watching whether it's on Periscope or Facebook or other YouTube, I'm gonna divulge into this. But for all of you previous viewers from weeks and months and years ago, you will know exactly how I feel about Charlotte Flair winning the NXT Women's Championship. I understand now. At the end of the day, I understand why they did what they did. They needed to move Charlotte Flair to the NXT roster because she's got a name about herself. She has a presence about herself. And what Charlotte Flair is going to do for NXT is she's going to put extra eyeballs on the screen that they wouldn't necessarily get. And it's all about them beating AEW in ratings on Wednesday nights. And the fact that this Wednesday was the first Wednesday of Charlotte Flair's reign as the two-time NXT Women's Champion, they beat AEW in ratings this week for the first time in 2020. So right there, it makes sense that they did it. As a Mark who is basically, as we quote-unquote call a neckbeard, I hate this fucking decision that they made. I am sick and tired of fucking Charlotte Flair getting all these chances and opportunities and winning all these championships. I'm sick and tired of it. And I get the fact that, she is the most talented woman in the entire women's division for WWE. And I get the fact that she's actually one of the top 5 just in-ring performers in WWE, period. I think that she's one of the top 2 or 3 women in the entire world when it comes to being a female competitor. Her and Tessa Blanchard that are the first 2 to come to mind and everything. But it's like, come on, man. This is the problem with WWE. WWE keeps beating the same dead horse over and over again. How many times did we see John Cena in the main event of a pay-per-view for the WWE Championship or the World Heavyweight title? Or it was, we're going to have John Cena main event WrestleMania against The Rock. Or, John Cena's going to main event against this person. And John Cena's going to fight Brock Lesnar in the main event in a non-title match. And it's just Cena. He just got shoved down everybody's throat. It's exactly what they're doing with Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair is now female John Cena. Fuck the fact that, she could be female Roman Reigns. She's female John Cena. She just keeps getting shoved down everybody's throat, and everybody's sick and tired of it, and I'm fucking sick and tired of it. I don't want her to have all these title reigns. For Christ's sake, she's going to surpass her father in title reigns before she's even 40. It's sickening. And it's because WWE, for whatever reason, doesn't want to push these new stars and make them bigger than what they are. You have a chance with Rhea Ripley, who has a tremendous look about her. She's very good in the ring. She's extremely young, and the fans love her. And you just put the title on her just to have her drop the belt to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. And it seems like recently they've been freaking hot potatoing that championship, the NXT Women's title, because it doesn't seem like we've had a long-standing champion. I mean, for crying out loud, Becky Lynch.
No, you can't say that. Shayna Baszler had it for over a year.
It just seemed like
come on.
We went from Shayna. You can't say. We went from Shayna. Hold on.
You can't say hot potato. You can't say hot potato. Like that should be more than twice.
Okay.
It should be like 4 or 5 times in quick succession.
The fact that we're on our 3rd different NXT champion.
Think of the U.S. Championship earlier this year. Yes, that was a hot potato. Literally, they've changed it twice in 2.5 years. 2.5 years. That's not a hot potato.
2.5 years? What do you mean 2.5 years?
I'm sorry, a year and a half. They've changed the title twice.
We're on our 3rd different NXT Women's Champion in 2020.
It's changed twice.
In 2020.
Shayna Baszler had it for over a fucking year.
I know.
It's not a hot potato.
All right, well, it looks like it's going to be in that point, because what happens if
Charlotte's not going to lose it anytime soon?
We'll see. I have zero faith in Vince McMahon. So, there. I said it.
Supposedly, Vince McMahon has not much of anything to do with NXT.
Right. If you don't think that Vince McMahon doesn't have some kind of a hand in what happens with NXT, then I got a timeshare in Hawaii you can buy off me.
How much?
$20.
Now, is this through the Colognes?
No, I said Hawaii, not Puerto Rico.
Well, they're timeshare sellers. It doesn't matter if it's Puerto Rico or Hawaii. But they just sell timeshares
in Puerto Rico, not in Hawaii.
Yeah.
The only thing is that to get to the timeshare in Hawaii, you have to swim.
Oh, okay, great.
So that's
fine.
I mean, if you want to swim all the way to freaking, there's no flight to California either. So I mean, you'd have to drive.
How's the White Devil getting back? So
it's anyway, the White Devil. He'll find a way.
But anyway, to some extent, I agree with what you're saying, though, about Charlotte. I'm not sick of her, winning titles. She did not belong in last year's WrestleMania main event.
100% agree.
It should have been a one-on-one match with Becky and Ronda. But, it's not that Charlotte detracted from that match. She was really good in that match, and it ended up being a good match. But that was supposed to be a grudge match between Becky and Ronda, and it felt like WWE's we need to get Charlotte in this match. So that's what they did. And it felt like this should have been a thing where hey, let's elevate the younger talent. Let's take Charlotte. Let's use the fact that we did put her in the main event of WrestleMania. We could talk about her main eventing WrestleMania and put her in the ring against this up-and-comer star, Rhea Ripley, who ever since, Survivor Series has been pretty damn hot as far as the wrestling business goes. And it's and then you get her to this WrestleMania match. And by the way, I thought it was an incredible match. It maybe went a little too long, but in general, this was one of the best matches as far as picking out a body part, going crazy on that body part. But they, it was a pretty physical match between these two women, and they put the wrong person over. Rhea Ripley should have been elevated, and like you were saying, I understand hey, they're trying to put Charlotte there so they could beat AEW. I don't know if Charlotte is going to be a game changer every week. If she's at NXT every week, eventually the specialness of this will wear down, just like when CM Punk first ended up on Backstage. What were the ratings? Through the roof. What happens now when CM Punk's on? Not much. So, I think this is one of those things where it will temporarily pop their rating, but I think it is just going to float back down.
At some point, they're going to have to break, if they really want to beat AEW and NXT on a week-to-week basis, they're going to have to basically just keep going in a cycle with different people going into NXT and just having them compete. For a couple months, Seth Rollins is going to have to go down there. For a couple months, Kevin Owens is going to have to go down there. For a couple months, AJ Styles is going to have to go down there. For a couple months, Daniel Bryan, and so forth and so on. That's the only way you're going to beat NXT because, like you said, the attraction of Charlotte Flair being in NXT is going to finally wear out Case in point, I mean, look at Finn Balor. Has anybody really been talking about Finn Balor since he really went back to NXT? No, I mean, he went back to NXT. People were all hyped about it. They were all excited about Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano,
matches.
and then Gargano just got hurt, and then he ended up fighting Riddle, and then Finn Balor hasn't done really anything. He's just kind of sit there. And
well, and one thing I'm not sure about Balor right now is he even in the United States, because it's been so long since I've seen him.
Yeah,
like did he get stuck back home?
It's possible.
And so they did a documentary on Drew McIntyre and kind of his journey like from the Royal Rumble forward. And there was a point where McIntyre almost got stuck because he was touring the UK, trying to promote WrestleMania and what have you back in March. And literally they said, Finn, you need to get on a plane, or not Finn, Drew, you need to get on a plane. You need to get on a plane now.
Well, that was the same thing with Bobby Lashley, because Bobby Lashley was over in Africa touring for WWE, and that's the reason, and he was over there. They didn't think he was going to be back in time for the tapings of WrestleMania. That's the reason why they didn't do much promoting of Bobby Lashley versus Aleister Black for their match at WrestleMania. And he was back in time, including the 14-day quarantine period that he went under, so that he could actually wrestle at WrestleMania. And I know that a lot of other people, I mean, one of the biggest concerns that they were having was if Canada and the United States decide to shut down the borders, is Brock Lesnar going to be able to get here from Canada? Luckily, they were able to get him out before that actually happened. So it is what it is. I guess one of the big things that I found out, because next weekend they were supposed to do UFC, and it was supposed to be Tony Ferguson was supposed to fight Khabib. And the big thing about that fight was Khabib, who lives in Russia, didn't want to leave Russia because his family was over there and didn't want to risk them getting sick or anything, which I completely understand. Trust me when I tell you. But they said that the only way that it would work if Khabib and Tony Ferguson were to have this fight next weekend is if Khabib actually got into a private jet and flew to the United States. That's the only way he's going to get into the country, because all commercial flights in and out of the country are pretty limited, which is why I'm surprised my father is actually leaving on Monday to go back home. I don't get that, but it is what it is.
Right.
I guess Ned Lamont, the governor of Connecticut, has worn out my father as well.
Right.
But to go back to the whole Charlotte Flair thing and everything, it was part of the reason. Like, my biggest gripe with WrestleMania this year was for the most part, the women's matches. And I'm not talking about the tag team match. Like I said last week, there was 3 people who needed big wins at WrestleMania this year, and Alexa Bliss was on the top of my list. I know a lot of people have been against Alexa Bliss because of the fact that since she got called up from NXT, they've kind of just pushed her to the top of the food chain, and she's getting all these opportunities and getting all these chances. And
in my view, she earned them, because when she first came up, was she one of the highly touted one? Was she one of the 4 horsewomen? No, she worked her tail off. She is not great in the ring, but she is a heck of a character, and she's very serviceable in the ring.
She's not terrible in the ring.
She's not Kelly.
You're right. I mean, I know she's not Charlotte Flair either, but Alexa Bliss I'm still one of Alexa Bliss's biggest fans. I'm one of her fans. I actually,
she earned those opportunities.
I know a lot of people are saying that, well, she slept her way to the top and everything like that. And that's why people
we don't know.
We don't know what the hell actually happened, but regardless of all that.
Dude.
Also, we also had Liv Morgan go up against Natty Neidhart on the pre-show of the second night, I believe it was.
Yep.
And Liv Morgan went over. I was actually very happy to see her get the victory. For me, my biggest gripe were the 3 single women's well, not really singles, but like the 3 women's championship matches between the Raw Women's Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship, and the NXT Women's Championship. I've already disclosed why I was pissed off about the NXT championship the way it went. It was the same thing with Raw. Becky Lynch has been the champion since she beat Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair in the main event of WrestleMania last year. She's been the Raw champion. She had both titles at the time. Obviously, since then, she dropped the SmackDown title to Charlotte, and then Charlotte lost in a Money in the Bank when the cash-in from Bayley and all that stuff. But Becky Lynch was going up against Shayna Baszler, who looked dominant as fuck in the goddamn Elimination Chamber. and deserved her opportunity against Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship. And in surprise, I think probably one of the biggest surprises of WrestleMania, Becky Lynch went over on Shayna Baszler. Thoughts?
Now, I've read that was not the end of their feud. That is the only possible thing that makes what happened at WrestleMania make sense, in my view. Because, I mean, hey, just because it shouldn't stop at a year just because, hey, she made it a year, that's good enough. But, Becky's kind of gone through everybody. There's nobody left for her to have matches with. She got the monkey off her back of not being able to beat Asuka. Beat Asuka now, 2 out of 3, and her and Asuka have great chemistry and what have you, but Asuka can't go back and go against her. She's lost a couple of times. They don't really have anybody except for, there's your favorite woman who returned on Monday Night on Raw, Nia Jax, who could find herself getting a shot at the title
There's
soon.
one other person, though.
But supposedly the Shayna thing is not done.
There's only one other person that they could actually have that hasn't fought Becky yet who could get that opportunity. That's Bianca Belair, who just got the call up basically on WrestleMania weekend, but she made it official on Monday that she is up on the main roster to be, I think she's going to be formed in a group with her husband, Montez Ford, and Angelo Dawkins. I'm sorry, not D'Angelo. Okay. I had an office moment.
Puke.
Whatever. But she's the only other person she really hasn't gone through. And obviously Nia Jax, who they never really had their blow off for when Nia Jax tried to break her face because she's a
right. No. If you want to see the brainless ones thoughts on Nia Jax, go on to our YouTube page at the FN Marks and just search out when he has his discussion about Nia Jax. You'll know exactly how he feels. And literally, he became Nostradamus from that rant.
No, I'm not going to go there.
So anyway, but if you're using somebody like Bianca Belair, in general, they aren't going to sit there and like, well, we brought her up today, tomorrow she wins the title. Yeah, they did that with Paige, but like you have to do that once in a great while. Yeah. And they would have to have an awful lot of faith in you. Now, I think they like Bianca Belair, but I don't know if they, are like going, oh, we need to strap a rocket to her. She's incredibly gifted as an athlete. I think she's like, I enjoy her shtick, but is it main event level at this current moment when the audience doesn't know her? I think if Bianca went in the ring with her, Becky should win the match. Yeah. So, I think you need to put somebody in there where, I guess they could keep the title on Becky for a while, but, again, who does she have left that you're like, I really want to see her go against this person with the title on the line? There aren't many, unless unless Mickie James is healthy and available to wrestle again. Because Mickie, I think, went out with an injury and did commentary for a bit, but we haven't seen or heard from her for a while.
And it was funny because one person that I could think of that they could have put in the match with Becky Lynch eventually down the road would have been Liv Morgan, because they've kind of built her up the right way they could have. The fact that she got the victory over Natty Neidhart on Sunday at WrestleMania, and then she goes up against Asuka on Monday and gets freaking destroyed. So I don't know. I don't know.
All right, and Neil's saying technically Becky has never beaten Alexa Bliss in a title match.
I would love to see that too, but I don't think they're going to do Alexa Bliss versus
she's
Becky.
Getting tag team right now.
Yeah, she's in a tag team.
And they just won the titles, and for the most part,
and they're on SmackDown, and Becky's on Raw. But I would
actually get into a match because they did say that the women's tag titles are
on both shows,
on all 3 shows.
Okay,
so
that's what they should have done in the first place.
They did it a little bit. They didn't get too crazy into it. That's how the Kabuki Warriors ended up with the titles.
Yep, that's true.
I agree, Micah. Becky needs to drop the belt. She should have, I believe, dropped it last week.
She should have lost to Baszler. I will say this: the way that she beat Baszler, I actually liked because with Shayna putting her in the headlock and then she kind of rolled back and Baszler's arms. I like the every once in a while the roll up pins.
Yes.
Because not everything needs to end with a finisher. Even though I love. I mean, obviously, I love like the RKO and the broke kick and everything like that.
Sure.
But every once in a while, a match can end on a freaking roll up, and it's not the end of the world. And it was something that people weren't expecting. So when you get the surprise factor in it too, that's when I enjoy matches like that. And then obviously the SmackDown Women's Championship was probably the one match I had the biggest ism about, was because of the fact that Bayley once again won the freaking match. They had the perfect opportunity to put the belt on Lacey Evans. There was a lot of news going around from Friday into Saturday and even into Sunday where Vince McMahon was going to have it, where it was going to be a lot of feel-good stories out there, and he was going to do everything in his power to keep the fans happy watching WrestleMania this year because of the fact of the coronavirus. So we were going to get a lot of outcomes that we really wanted to see, and I really wanted to see Lacey Evans. I know a lot of people wanted to see Lacey Evans go over in that match. And when we found out it was an elimination match, can I just say that the happiest part about that was the fact that Tamina Snuka got eliminated? Because I can only imagine what you people would have had to have me do on this podcast probably next week, which would have been a horrible week for them to actually do something like that for me.
Yes.
I celebrated when Tamina Snuka got eliminated on Sunday. Oh my God, I celebrated. Woo.
But one thing that they did have with that, and they've been continuing, for the past few weeks, is they're finally sowing the seeds of what's her name breaking off. Sasha breaking off from Bayley. Oh, it looks like we froze again on Facebook. Sad. Very sad.
Oh, man, a little bit, which is weird because it's still
counting the numbers up and down. So I don't know if people, if you guys are still getting audio, just let us know, and we'll keep rolling with the audio. If not, I'll try to fix the video feed. So
fix the glitch, which means he's not going to be collecting a paycheck anymore.
Actually, I don't even know if they send us a thing if we'll actually see it. So keep going.
But yeah, Bayley winning was the thing that really just really just ticked me off. And it's like you had this opportunity to promote all these new people. You brought in Lacey Evans, about a year ago, with a little bit of fanfare when you basically brought up all these people from NXT, when you had Heavy Machinery, and you had Nikki Cross, and you had EC3, and you had Lars Sullivan, and you had an opportunity to build these people into something special. And obviously, Nikki Cross, of all the people that were brought up of the 6, has had the most success because Nikki Cross is now a 2-time women's tag team champion with Alexa Bliss. She had a WrestleMania moment. I know you love that term.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. So I mean, it's just you had an opportunity to build up all these new faces. You had a chance to build up Rhea Ripley to be something as a new face of the women's division. You had an opportunity to make Shayna Baszler get an opportunity on the main roster as opposed to NXT, where she had a lot of success. You had an opportunity for Lacey Evans, or even to have her get an opportunity or a moment. But the fact is that Vince McMahon kept pulling the trigger on the 4 horsewomen of NXT. Or 4 horsewomen of WWE, I should say. And it just bothers me that Bayley won again.
Yeah. Well, how many times have we complained that WWE is, they telegraph things and they're like, it's coming.
Yeah. All the time.
When they do things that you don't see coming, I mean, as much as I'd prefer this to what? This doesn't make sense. All right, well, do we want them to do stuff that always makes sense, I guess? Or do we want them to sometimes throw us off? I guess that's the thing. Because you can't have both all the time. It just, after a while, it will start to feel like it's the same thing over and over and over again. But it's like, all right, not expecting Bayley to win. Bayley won. All right, good. They threw us off. I think they did maybe they did a couple too many of these.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these, you're like, I didn't see that coming, but Bayley and Becky.
Yeah, that was. You could have done one and not the other one. And if you had done it with Becky, I think people would have been less up in arms about it. Just because of the fact that Lacey Evans is still rather young, as opposed to Shayna Baszler, who's like almost 40, and she's not already 40. But it was somebody different. Plus, Becky's been champion for a year, and Becky Lynch is arguably the face of the women's division now. So I mean, it's just interesting how they're handling it. That's all. And how they go forward is going to be obviously. I think that they ended up doing this like Bayley going over in this match because they're obviously building and planting the seeds for Bayley versus Sasha once again. Well,
this was something that like a couple of years ago, it needed to be the WrestleMania match. And for whatever reason, they decided like, no, we're going to completely deviate. We're going to go and we're going to do
the tag team.
We'll do the tag team title thing, and then the story became like overcooked. Like it did not like. And now it's like they're going back into it. Like they finally like go, hey, maybe we should do this Bayley Sasha thing, and especially with all the crap that happened last year with Sasha.
Yeah.
And her deciding to go home and take her ball and go home for like 8 months. So.
And I'll tell you right now, last year in the women's tag team title match, that was the biggest fucking curveball they threw. Well, one of the biggest curveballs they threw last year. It was
the Iconics, man.
The Iconics winning the titles last year was kind of iconic.
And then the Iconics have disappeared.
Yeah. We have no idea what's going on with them. I have no idea what's
supposedly happening. They say creative has nothing for them. It's like I think people were they enjoyed it and were absolutely annoyed by the Iconics.
Yeah.
But that's what the
Then I heard something that they were going to get repackaged as something else, and then it's been quite a few months since the last time we saw the Iconics. I mean, the fact that you had a Royal Rumble back in January and neither of the two Iconics were in it just kind of seemed kind of weird too.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But it was just a lot of interesting things that WWE did at WrestleMania last weekend. And a lot of it was good. Some of it was not as good, but it's neither here nor there. I mean, it happened. And
better than WrestleMania 9.
Yes. That's not really saying much, Jay. We've already discussed this. It's not.
When you're talking about the fact that there were no fans there, literally no fans, and they carried off something that was, in my view, better than 9, probably 11, probably better than 27.
Wait, as somebody who was there at WrestleMania 11, I'm the one that can actually determine whether or not WrestleMania 11 was worse than WrestleMania 36, okay? As one of the, 18,000 people, which was more than the amount of fans that showed up for a Hartford Whalers game in the same building for an entire season, I can tell you whether or not WrestleMania 11 was worse than WrestleMania 36. And WrestleMania 11 was worse than WrestleMania 36 with no fans. So,
yeah,
keep that in mind. Hey, Chris Brown.
Yeah. So hopefully I have fixed the Facebook feed.
Okay.
We'll see. Third time's the charm, right?
Yes, that's the old saying.
What
else happened at WrestleMania?
Well, I
would like to touch briefly on the other pre-show match, which was Cesaro versus
Drew Gulak.
Rather entertaining. That was definitely one of the more entertaining opening matches on a pre-show that I've seen from a lot of pay-per-views. These two guys are really gifted in-ring performers. Really enjoyed their wrestling, and I was glad that they put on a hell of a match. And Cesaro went over on Drew Gulak. So
erroneous,
yeah. But either way, it was a good wrestling match. Period.
Drew Gulak went over.
Cesaro beat him.
Unless my check mark's wrong, it said Drew Gulak wins the match.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Me for 1 second.
So they put out a wrestling clinic. I mean, like both these guys know what the heck they're doing in the ring. Even without a crowd, it doesn't matter. Like, and the thing is, they kind of push each other. And the fact that Gulak's character specifically is a guy that, like, whatever moves you've been doing as part of your moveset for a while, he has come up with a counter, and that counter is something that, like, you know, we have not seen before. So I like the fact that he does that. So what's up, Monsep? Thanks for tuning in, dude. So shouldn't take you that long, man. I can probably
Got it right here. Gulak focuses most of his offense on Cesaro.
Did he win or did he lose?
Despite an onslaught of moves from Gulak, the Swiss Superman picked up the win with a unique airplane spin.
Oh, that is correct. He had the crazy airplane spin and threw him to the ground.
Damn right.
Look at you.
I was right.
We're doing all right, Monsep, man.
Say it.
Getting a look. What? I was right. I did say that. You apparently have bad hearing problems. I'm gonna chop you in the fucking chest.
Woo! Yeah, score one for the good guy.
But you know, these two guys again, like Gulak. Again, I come back to, like, these guys. We've seen whatever moveset a bunch of times, and that unique airplane spin was something that Drew Gulak has never seen.
Right.
And that's, you know what? Booking wise, it makes complete sense that a move he's never seen is what beat him. So,
yeah,
you know, we've seen Cesaro do the big swing. This is a, you know, man on your shoulders variation of it. So yeah,
true.
Monsep thought WrestleMania was amazing.
I thought it was good.
I enjoyed it, man. I think we both overall enjoyed the show. It would have been enhanced more if the fans were there. Like, Charlotte Flair specifically talked about, like, her mindset, where it's like she was like, for her, when the match goes on, the crowd kind of dictates the flow, what the crowd is. And she was like, going, all right, well, the crowd's not there, so I will dictate the flow of the match. So
yeah.
So that I thought was pretty good. And having Gulak and Cesaro start off this show, I think was a great way to kick everything off.
Yep, I agree.
And we had Gronk as the WrestleMania host here, and the thing that you wanted most the entire weekend.
Don't ruin it. We'll build into it. My first impression of Ron Gronkowski as host of WrestleMania, Vince, this is a message for you. I will go on to Twitter. I will contact you on Facebook. I will send you letters, emails. I will call WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. I know where it is. And you and I could have a nice talk. Rob Gronkowski cannot be scripted. It was fucking horrible. It was one of the worst promos I've ever seen. In fact, I haven't seen a promo that bad since Mike Adamle was there. I don't care.
Give me Sharon Corbin from any time, and give me Baron Corbin from a year and a half ago.
He really looked like he was reading a teleprompter.
He probably was.
He was definitely reading a teleprompter. It was terrible. You could tell he was reading a teleprompter. You need to sell it to me that you're not. And he couldn't do it. Obviously, it's going to come with time, because this was like his first big opportunity in WWE. And Rob Gronkowski, cut this promo. The fact that it was him and the other, what is it? The
Mojo Rawley?
Yeah, what was it? What does Jeff call them?
The meatheads?
The meatheads. The meat shields. The meat shields. He calls them the meat shields. The fact that him and Mojo Rawley were just, meat shielding each other and everything like that. And, of course, R-Truth comes up, and he was trying to hide from everybody, saying he was going to party with them, and they both kind of eyed him. And Gronkowski looked like he was going to get the pinfall on R-Truth, and Mojo threw him off and took the title. I was fucking pissed when Mojo walked out with the 24/7 title. Pissed, I tell you. But on Sunday...
That wasn't the end of it.
But on Sunday, we had a moment where Mojo was fighting off a whole bunch of NXT people for whatever reason, including the captain of catering himself, Cassius Ohno, trying to get in there. And Rob Gronkowski jumped from the balcony, landed on top of all the wrestlers, and pinned Mojo Rawley to win his first championship. So, proving that Rob Gronkowski doesn't need Bill Belichick or Tom Brady to win championships with the Patriots, because he's not in the Patriots anymore and he's already a champion. Suck on that, Brady. Woo!
right?
Yeah, what are you going to say about that, huh? Huh? Rob Gronkowski has more championships without Brady and Belichick than Brady and Belichick have without him.
Well, literally, he like just retired.
It doesn't matter. He still won a championship.
If you want to get technical, they did win a championship. It was the AFC East champion.
That's not an actual championship.
I'm gonna walk you through this. If he had won the heavyweight title, I would say yes. Oh my God, he won a title without Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Now, he won the 24/7 title, which I would say is like winning the AFC East. Because the AFC East, we have usually, now we play those teams 6 times, and we get 5 wins. Generally,
year. Yes, I know.
Generally, we get 5 wins from that because it's a garbage division.
Well, you got the Jets in it.
But even so, you have to beat somebody to win the title. Now, it's not like Gronk went in there and beat Brock Lesnar. No. He beat Mojo Rawley and won the 24/7 title. Come on. It's the same as the AFC East.
Isn't Mojo Rawley from Virginia?
He went to Christopher Newport University. I believe he might be from the D.C. area, might be from Virginia.
That would be fitting that the guy from Virginia would drop the title to the Gronk.
Brother.
And we are going to see Gronk as world heavyweight champion at some point. It's going to happen. There's no
I don't think so.
All right, we have witnesses here on the podcast. We should make a bet about it. I will bet you a 6-pack of a beer of my choice.
I think we need to put a time limit on this.
No, as long as Rob Gronkowski is in the WWE.
I mean, I'm not going to say 1 year. I'm going to say like within 5 years.
I want a 6-pack of my choice of Rob Gronkowski wins the world heavyweight title in the next 5 years.
Okay.
We have witnesses.
Right.
You heard that, Tommy, right?
Monsef's like, what's the AFC? The American Football Conference.
The NFL is divided into 2 conferences, the AFC and the NFC. The AFC is basically the New England Patriots, the team that won the Super Bowl last year, the Chiefs, and a bunch of bum teams that really can't do anything. That Tommy's there, so you're a witness.
Right.
Basically, the Patriots play in a division that's consistent of the Miami Dolphins, who haven't won a Super Bowl since 1972, the Buffalo Bills, who have never won a Super Bowl, and they're the only team in NFL history to have played in 4 consecutive Super Bowls and not win one of them. And most importantly, and I can't stress this enough, they have the New York Jets, who lucked themselves into their only Super Bowl 80 billion years ago with the most overrated quarterback in NFL history.
Hey, they had 20 years to take down Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and they couldn't do it. That's not unfair.
They had 50 years to win their second one. Don't get me started. They've only played one
I'm just
Super
talking
Bowl.
about in general the AFC East. They had 20 years to figure out Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and they couldn't. And most of the NFL couldn't either.
Except for Tom Coughlin.
A long time ago.
Doesn't matter.
A long time ago.
Twice.
A long time ago.
Doesn't matter. And now Brady's a buck.
It's fine. It happens.
Yep. I'm actually surprised it happened, but nevertheless. Can you just acknowledge the fact that Rob Gronkowski is better off without being a Patriot than he is being a Patriot?
No.
Just admit it. And the fact that the Rob Gronkowski winning the 24/7 championship should have been my good for this week or my great for this week. And if we were still doing mark out moments of the week.
Well, that's what the good generally is, so.
What? I don't even know what the hell I just said. I was reading it and it disappeared halfway through it.
You are the king of dead silence. I'll sit there and I'll finish my statement, and then you sit there and stare.
I know.
It's terrible.
Terrible.
Anyway.
Gronk is the GOAT.
I can't wait. We don't have mark out moment of the week anymore because that's what the good is.
Yes, I know. But if we still had the mark out moment of the week, that would have been.
That's what good is.
Yes, I know. But just saying. Now that we have bad and brainless every single week, it's obsolete. Like Matt Hardy in WWE.
Would you like to call it the mark out moment of the week and then the bad and brainless?
No, because
it doesn't roll off the tongue.
Roll off the tongue that way.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
So
yeah, God damn it.
Right.
Rob Gronkowski is the GOAT. WWE needs to do Yo Soy Fiesta shirts though.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, good. As long as we're in agreement of that.
All right. So Gronk ends up winning the 24/7 title. It'll be interesting to see when he loses it. I would love for it to be like, he's just messing around like on a football field and Mojo Rawley like tackles him, and there's a random referee. Now, nothing will ever, I think, compete with Jinder Mahal on the golf course in his wrestling tights. That was the greatest 24/7 title change ever. I want the Jinder to come back. You know what? Maybe that's who's going to win it. Jinder has been out with an injury for a while. Maybe he's ready to come back. Maybe the Jinder will hinder the Gronk.
I actually have a very good suggestion.
All right.
What's one way to beat a football player with another football player? And what better football player to beat Rob Gronkowski, multiple-time Super Bowl champion and the greatest tight end of all time?
Than Baron Corbin.
Baron Corbin should be the one that takes the 24/7 title from Rob Gronkowski. Because just imagine the reaction that Baron Corbin will get if he beat Rob Gronkowski for the 24/7 title.
Well, Monsef, as much as that would be a good idea to put them in the XFL, as of right now, the XFL doesn't exist. They have suspended operations with, I think, a little bit of hope that if the coronavirus pandemic is over and done with, maybe, just maybe, they will restart it. But it seems highly unlikely right now, as the GOAT Gorilla Monsoon once said many times.
Yes.
So that made no sense.
It's all good.
Yeah. So
Lawrence Taylor wins the 24/7 title. If Lawrence Taylor wins the 24/7 title, he's got to be a Hall of Famer at that point.
I mean, in my view, he's already surpassed the Drew Carey line.
He's surpassed the Coco Beware line, too. He main evented and won WrestleMania. Granted, it was WrestleMania in your house, Hartford, which was, at the time, supposed to be the only WrestleMania in your house. God only knows that 36 was also WrestleMania in your house again.
Yeah.
But come on. LT is well above that line anyway. He should win the title. If I was in Tampa Bay, I was going to beat Gronkowski for the title. That way I could have came back to Virginia and been the 24/7 champion.
Sure.
So that we could just have like random people like R-Truth show up at the house and be like, hey, man, I'm here to fight you for the 7-Eleven 365 Macho Uno
Nacho Libre title
championship.
Yeah.
I'm like, get out of my house, R-Truth.
Right. All right. We brought up Baron Corbin, so let's talk the Baron Corbin and Elias match.
So last week when I was going through my WrestleMania match predictions, I had said that there was 3 people last weekend that needed victories at WrestleMania this year. I had said Alexa Bliss, who she and Nikki Cross beat the Kabuki Warriors to become. I agree with that, Tommy. I think a random fan should win the 24/7 title. Like,
well, it would have to be like a plant.
Brock Lesnar guy.
It would need to be a plant like Santino was.
Or it could be Brock Lesnar guy.
Right.
Or it could be like Rob Stone from freaking Fox Sports. I mean, it could just be about anyway. I could do it. I mean, seriously. Anyway, Alexa Bliss, they get the victory with Nikki Cross winning the tag team titles from the Kabuki Warriors. I said that Elias needed a victory over Baron Corbin because, Baron Corbin did already have the marquee victory under his belt at WrestleMania when he beat Kurt Angle last year. Yeah. He also won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal a few years back. But Elias last year had his musical performance interrupted by the Doctor of Thugonomics. The year before, he was just he just played his guitar and interrupted Cena again. So Elias kind of just needed that victory over Baron Corbin. And after even getting his ass kicked and thrown off the railing like he did by Baron Corbin, Elias came out there and beat Baron Corbin pretty cleanly, too.
Yeah, well, and like he came out to the match like a little worse for wear, and they're like, Corbin came out like all cocky, like just count it, just raise my hand, give me the victory, and as much as I thought Corbin was going to win, I'm glad Elias won. Elias is my dude, and definitely I still prefer heel Elias. Nothing wrong with face Elias, but I prefer heel Elias. But you got a victory at WrestleMania.
And I think that Elias's victory over Corbin would have been much better if there was a crowd there.
Yeah, because Corbin would have got booed the crap out of him coming out. There would have been a lot of heat there. And
when Elias played the guitar when he first came out, that place would have erupted.
Yes.
And it was definitely not all matches could have benefited more from a crowd reaction, but there was at least a handful of matches that could have definitely benefited more from.
So we'll get into another one of those, which was Otis versus Dolph. And, you know, when they had the Elimination Chamber match last month, I posed the idea that I thought that Rude and Ziggler should have won this thing because the hot feud that would have made the tag team title match seem very important would have been Dolph and Rude versus Heavy Machinery, and give Heavy Machinery that, you know, signature win at WrestleMania, and then you end up with getting Otis with the girl.
Yeah.
And they went a different route, and we ended up having a Otis versus Dolph match. Now, as much as I'm entertained the heck out of the Caterpillar, that as an ending move is pretty bad.
It's kind of like the people's elbow and the 5-knuckle shuffle.
At least with the people's elbow, like The Rock tries to come down with an awful lot of like quick force. 5-knuckle shuffle really has not been ending move. It's a silly thing, almost like the ballin' move that MVP does. It's like, I don't like it as an ending move. Like I think Otis would need to come up with like a new move if he was going to be maintaining singles. I don't think he is. I think this was just supposed to be the end of that feud. But like this crowd would have gone bonkers
for Mandy Rose and him at the end.
For him and Mandy at the end, and it would have just made this moment more special.
Agreed, 100%. It was, of all the matches, it was the one that definitely needed the fan reaction more than any other match. And I was very happy for Otis. Also happy for Dolph Ziggler because it was the first time in his WWE career where he had a one-on-one singles match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Dolph Ziggler has just been one of those guys that they could depend heavily on for Money in the Bank when he used to be part of the show. He once upon a time wrestled with Big E Langston to fight Team Hell No for the tag team titles.
Yeah.
He was in a multi-man ladder match for the Intercontinental title.
Was that the year Brian won it?
That was the year
31?
It might have been both. It might have been the one Brian won and then the one Zack Ryder won.
Sweet.
Remember, once upon a time, Zack Ryder led up the show winning the Intercontinental title and then dropped it to the Miz the next night, which I'll never understand that. But.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing that would have probably happened. I think Drew McIntyre would have gotten a pretty big pop at the end of that match with Brock.
I will say that night 2 definitely lasted longer than it should have. I think that the Saturday one should have definitely been the one that went till about 10:30 or so, and that Sunday should have ended around 10 o'clock. But I mean, that's just what is it? Drawing hairs or
right? Splitting hairs.
Splitting hairs. That's it.
All right, so let's see what other match on the card where we kind of like trying to make sure we hit all these matches. So we had the Usos, New Day, and Miz and Morrison. So originally this was supposed to be a triple threat tag team ladder match, and because Miz got sick, and supposedly this was in part the reason why Roman Reigns decided to back out of his match. What was that he was kind of ticked off that WWE was not being a little bit more careful when they found out Miz was sick. But dude, my cousins are in the ring with him. And you know, there's been no news whether or not Miz actually has coronavirus, but you know, it just made Roman kind of do a gut check on himself where it's like, going, hey, should I be wrestling?
Right.
Somebody is coming from somewhere else in the country who has had contact with people I've had no contact with, and me being in the ring with them, what's that going to do to me? So, you know, I understand where, you know, Roman ended up coming from, but because Miz was sick, they took him out of this match, but instead of not having tag team titles on the line,
they had a triple threat one-on-one match with John Morrison, Kofi Kingston, and I think it was Jimmy Uso.
And you know what? When it comes to ladder matches, you know, with the audience, you get a lot of the oohs and ahs, and that really tells you what's working, what's going well. And like, I think having the audience there also sits there and kind of pushes you to do things like where you're like, this is kind of crazy, but you know what the audience is going to be like. And they had none of that.
When you hit that move and then the fans start chanting, this is awesome.
And they didn't have that. And in general, I would say this match came off pretty damn well. A couple of like botches, a couple of things that were a little off.
I was thoroughly entertained.
And obviously there were a couple of spots that they were able to do because they were able to shoot a couple of different camera angles. So like the person that took the bump didn't get injured. So they probably set up some crash pads. So like, hey, we're going to have this dude fall off this like 15-foot thing. And we're going to see him fall. We're not going to see him hit the ground, but we're going to then take a camera shot where that person's on the ground after. But hey, I'm cool with that. Like, that was one of the things that they had as an advantage for themselves this year.
Right.
That they could do a couple of those things, and we'll get into a couple of those other matches that had those things later. But, you know, these guys worked their tails off to have a worthy ladder match. And the end of the match, I thought, was fucking awesome. Yep. Where you had all three of them with the titles in their hand, and then the guy that they punch and knock off
falls back and grabs both
and has both of them. I fucking loved that.
Which I thought was interesting, that they were fighting for both titles, even though it was just one person from each tag team.
Right.
But they did get the right people in there. I mean, obviously, it didn't matter really which one between Jay and Jimmy Uso, but Kofi Kingston is just he's a seasoned.
He's a highlight.
He's a highlight reel, and you can't not have Kofi Kingston on WrestleMania the year after he won the WWE Championship and had that whole big spectacle behind Kofi Mania and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I thought this match,
I enjoyed it.
Miz and Morrison need to keep the titles because the SmackDown tag titles have been hot potatoed for a long time. And they've been disrespected for a long time, even with Miz and Morrison as champions. I mean, how many times have they already lost matches in non-title affairs? I hate that. And if you've never seen the show, I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
by the way, the rap that they did was fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought I was thoroughly entertained by that.
All right, so Chris Brown actually is chiming in saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Saturday feel like it was the upper card and Sunday was the lower card? I think as far as star power and match power, I think it was kind of equivalent, but as far as like what I think went over and came off, I thought Saturday came off better than Sunday did.
Well, the thing
it wasn't as long in the tooth.
I'm not surprised that Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar were the main event of Sunday. I'm not surprised that Cena and Bray Wyatt was also on Sunday. I wasn't surprised that Randy Orton and Edge was also on Sunday. I think they had to do it that way because I think I kind of agree with Chris Brown on this. I kind of do. I think that they put the better half of the card on Sunday than they did on Saturday. And
no. He's saying that Saturday was better than Sunday.
The matches themselves were better, or like the match ups were better on Saturday?
He didn't say that. He said, didn't Saturday feel like the upper card?
I would say, if that was the case, then I would say no, because you had Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre, who was the Royal Rumble winner on Sunday. You also had the NXT Women's Champion Rhea Ripley go up against the 2020 Women's Royal Rumble winner on Sunday. So I think that would give Sunday more of an edge of like being the upper card. Plus the fact that you had more.
I think he means like as far as the quality. Now, it's star power. I mean, you could say that Sunday was the star power day because Sunday is routinely when WrestleMania is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're sitting there trying to set up the matches over 2 days, it's like, all right, you know, they did the gimmicks, the 2 gimmick matches or the 4 gimmick matches. They split them up, you know, just to give people like some variety.
Well,
but you know, again, I come from the school of thought of like, yes, as far as the people that you're selling the pay-per-view on, more of them were on Sunday. I thought Saturday was the better quality of the 2 days.
Okay.
That would be my view. All right, so Chris is saying specifically in terms of star power. So
I thought the more star power was on Sunday because you had Brock Lesnar instead of Goldberg. It seemed like, you know, you had your one old geezer on Saturday and your one old geezer on Sunday, whether it was The Undertaker on Saturday and Goldberg on Sunday, but you have Brock Lesnar, who is still a major attraction, put up, he defended the title on Sunday. You had both Royal Rumble winners on Sunday. You had John Cena, who has been the poster child of WWE for basically the last 2 decades, was on Sunday. So I would say that Sunday had a slight edge with the star power. I think that they had the better tag team match on Saturday for the tag team titles, even though it was a triple threat singles match as opposed to an actual tag team match on Sunday. I don't know. I would say that Sunday had a little bit more of a star power edge for me, especially because you had Charlotte Flair and Brock Lesnar, and you had John Cena, and you had Bray Wyatt.
You already said all that stuff.
So
You should
yeah,
have just did it.
there.
All right. So, interesting question here, but you know what? Why did WrestleMania have a kickoff show? And in general, Monsef, I think when you're saying kickoff show, why did they have pre-show matches? I'm guessing is what you're talking about. Like, just say it's part of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, they should have a kickoff show so they can sit there and hype all their different feuds and have different people. But it's like, why would they have a pre-show match? Just say it's part of WrestleMania.
The fact that they had 2 pre-show matches, they had a pre-show match on both nights, was kind of stupid.
Just say it's part of WrestleMania.
Yeah. And the fact that they did the same video promo for Saturday and Sunday just seemed like it was coming off as lazy for me. And my favorite part about it was the fact that they were promoting the shit out of Roman Reigns in the video package, and it's like, he's not going to be there.
So while we're discussing Roman Reigns, more or less, Triple H came out and said that Roman Reigns will come back when he decides to come back. And I forget who it was, but somebody in the chat said, should Roman be heel?
Oh, I would love to see Roman heel.
Honestly, I think that when he comes back, he should be heel and use what happened as like WWE was not looking out for my well-being and like that as storyline, not like actual, but like that could be his thing. And all the fans wanted me to come back and do this thing because they didn't care about me. And like have that be like the crux of like, F you, this is why I'm going against WWE and this is why I'm going against the fans, and F you. And I think it'd be fascinating to kind of see take his current character and kind of tweak it a little bit. And because, I mean, a lot of the things he does, I wouldn't say are super baby face. It's not super heel. It's just Roman Reigns.
Right.
And Tommy brought up, are the Usos heels or faces right now?
I think they're kind of more on the tweener side.
Yeah.
Because like people,
They're the Usos.
people can boo them, but people respect them for what they've done because they have been the longest tenured tag team together in all of WWE right now, and it's not even close because they've been there for almost over 10 years now.
They are the team of the decade.
And they are the team of the decade, and they've had some tremendous matches. And the fact that all those years ago, and that was another thing I was right about, by the way, when I said that they needed to get repackaged. Because
we discussed that for a long time because their face shtick was
when they were the Samoan tag team and they were doing
and I dug the dance that they did and
everything, but they needed to change things up, and they are fantastic.
Yeah, that could be interesting, Chris. Like if they made Roman a heel and kind of package him with the Usos as almost a faction, that could be an interesting bit, but we'll see when that happens. I'm guessing we will not see Roman until kind of they start opening up stuff again, which current projections, maybe August, maybe like things might start getting better earlier than August, but like as far as like having WWE with actual events, like it's going to be, I'd say, August or later.
So we'll be lucky to see SummerSlam happen when SummerSlam is supposed to happen.
Yes.
Because they've already canceled Money in the Bank for next month.
Although they're having Money in the Bank qualifying matches, so I'm wondering if they're just doing that on SmackDown or if they're just doing that on Raw.
They'll probably do the Money in the Bank actual pay-per-view, and they'll just do it like WrestleMania where there's nobody in attendance, and they'll just have that. That way, like you said, with a bunch of the matches from WrestleMania, they could actually do things and make it safer for the wrestlers than anything else.
Well, so just bringing up this for a short bit, it's crazy to me that like last night, supposedly SmackDown was completely live, which means there were, I mean, they might have been shuttling people in and out, but that means that there were a bunch of people at the SmackDown taping.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there were no more than 10 people out there at the same time, but there were probably more than that backstage. Anyway. Another match that we had Sami Zayn going against Daniel Bryan.
I call this the upset of the weekend.
For the Intercontinental title. I had Sami Zayn going over just because, I didn't foresee them like going back and forth with the title. But
I had a crazy tinfoil hat theory of why Daniel Bryan was going to beat him. And then it was going to lead to last night, Daniel Bryan coming out and issuing an open challenge for the Intercontinental title. And then the Lobster Head was going to come out and win the Intercontinental title just so I could have jumped through the fucking ceiling. And I would have been the happiest moment of me for wrestling-wise in my entire years of fandom as a wrestling fan. And
that was Daniel Bryan getting kicked in the face again.
And Daniel Bryan would have just taken some time off because from what it seems like he's done being a full-time wrestler. And he's probably going to be, you'll probably see him on like SmackDown every week, and he'll probably do the pay-per-views, and he might do a house show here or there, but that's about it for Daniel Bryan.
Right.
So that was my tinfoil hat theory. But I still think that Sami Zayn beating Daniel Bryan was the upset of the weekend.
But they put on a entertaining match, and one of the things that they've been doing more lately, because they don't have a crowd to make up with noise, but the wrestlers are being more vocal in the ring.
Yeah.
And Sami Zayn being more vocal in the ring is freaking hilarious to me. Like, if there was one thing I wish Jericho was still in WWE, because I want to hear him say "ask him" with nobody in the crowd, and but be so loud and obnoxious that people ask him.
Yeah. But
that's kind of what Sami Zayn's doing.
And it was something that actually happened during the Baron Corbin Elias match too that I wanted to bring up, and I kind of just forgot about it until you mentioned it. But during Baron Corbin's match against Elias, he actually was yelling at Michael Cole and JBL during his match, and what do you guys think of that? Huh? And it's like you're yelling at the only two people that
the two fans,
the two people that are
not two fans. There was one fan in attendance. And it's a joke you'll love. There was a fan above the ring. There was one fan in attendance. Yeah.
Your mother would
Sorry.
love that joke too.
Oh, yeah. So, Zayn Bryan entertaining match, and had Sami Zayn going over.
Shockingly, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. Hey. So, we had that. We had Captain Cupcake versus the Monday Night Messiah. Again, these guys put on an entertaining match, and there was a point where was it DQ or a count out?
Disqualification.
And Owens got
Seth Rollins blasted the shit out of him with the belt. I laughed so hard when it happened.
Yes.
Fuck Kevin Owens.
But basically, Kevin Owens, Captain Cupcake, ended up with 2 wins in one night of WrestleMania, where he won by DQ and said, no, I'm not going to win like that. But, the end of the no holds barred part of that match, I love that. When he jumped off the WrestleMania sign, yeah, it's not as high as when Shane jumped off the Hell in a Cell, but it was pretty damn impressive. And again, there's no crowd there to sit there and pop where you're going, yeah, I just did that, and the crowd's giving you that energy. He had none of that. Went to the top of that thing and jumped down and splatted that thing
Obviously, he was thinking about the giant stack of cupcakes that he was going to be eating after he jumped off.
Well, he needed to do that quickly because Cassius Ohno was there and was in catering.
Oh God, that's what I need. I need that in my life. I need Cassius Ohno versus Kevin Owens in a cupcake eating contest. Somehow we throw Otis Dosevich and Braun Strowman in there too. I don't think there's enough cupcakes in the country to supply all 4 of them in a cupcake eating contest. But I mean, it'd be nice to get that.
Yeah.
I still think Kevin Owens would win because Kevin Owens loves cupcakes.
He does.
He loves cupcakes more than Adam West loves taffy. And he's a man who loves his taffy.
All right. So, I give both these guys high marks. They did a good build for this, and I thought that the match really was I don't know if this is going to be the blow-off. I mean, because they built this thing for a long while. I guess it could be, but Owens was the one who I guess needed the win because, Rollins is the heel, and Rollins has been killing it lately. So,
yeah, I agree.
All right.
I don't want to go too much into details because fuck Kevin Owens.
All right. So then, Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley, like you were saying earlier, not a lot of build-up for this match. That had to do with the coronavirus. But there's always some WrestleMania matches where they just don't build anyway. So I just kind of saw this as that match.
Yeah.
And I still am holding out hope one day that I will get my Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar match. This did not help my hopes. But, again, if you're looking at the ceiling of these two guys, Aleister's the young dude, up and coming, has a cool persona, and it's also storyline-wise something that they're doing where it's like Lana effed up, telling Lashley, spear him, and that's how he ended up eating the black mass. He made a mistake, and it was because of Lana.
Thank God.
So
that storyline's going to go right into the shitter. And I couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
I think it was a good win for Aleister Black in the grand scheme of things. He really needed that victory more than Bobby Lashley did. I know that you want Lashley versus Lesnar and whatever kind of capacity, which it could still happen. Because I think that Lashley losing doesn't hurt him as much as it would have hurt Aleister Black losing that match to Bobby Lashley.
Because he's trying to build credibility at this point. Like we all know, Bobby Lashley is like a destroyer. Yeah. He looks like one. He has, I think it's a 15-2 MMA record. He is no slouch in like legit combat sports. So we all know that. Aleister Black has only lost one singles match.
Yep.
And that was after losing or beating 2 members of the 06.
Yep.
And then, losing to AJ Styles. So it was kind of a cheap loss.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when things have been on the square, he hasn't lost.
And he had to lose to a goat.
Right. So, as much as it would be a better segue to go into that goat, I think we need to save that to closer to the end.
They should be the last 2 matches we discuss. Not the title matches. I want to discuss the 2 best matches of the weekend as last.
All right. So we had the Kabuki Warriors going against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross for the Women's Tag Team Championships.
Rather entertaining match. You know what you're going to get out of the Kabuki Warriors. They're 2 of the better performers in the women's division as a whole. Alexa Bliss has really made a name for herself over the last few years since she made her debut from NXT. But then you had Nikki Cross, who a lot of people were questioning what she was going to do. I know if I remember correctly, you said that Nikki Cross was more of an enhancement talent, and you could see her doing sort of like a training thing, like becoming a teacher down at the Performance Center, which I think at the end of the day, that's what she's going to do, because I think she's going to be a huge asset down there once her wrestling career is finally done. And I know that I was kind of skeptical of what they were going to do with her, because she looked like somebody who could really use Sanity. And when they brought Sanity up to the main roster, they left her down in NXT, but she had unfinished business to take care of in NXT before the rest of them did. She got brought up a little less than almost a year ago and everything, and they've hit this out of the park. They really have done a wonderful thing with this this Bliss Cross applesauce tag team combination that they did with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, and I'm extremely happy that they won the tag team titles in a it was actually a pretty solid match between the 2 teams and
One thing I've enjoyed about the Bliss Cross thing is how many times did we see Alexa Bliss getting quote unquote a best friend and then all of a sudden turning on her? It happened so many times, and it looked like WWE was going to do that again. Like they had put into motion what seemed like we're breaking them up. And I'm like going, oh, fuck this.
Yeah.
Like, don't do this storyline again. And thankfully, they did not pull the trigger for that like cajillionth time of her turning on the best friend.
Yep.
They finally actually let Alexa Bliss be a face.
Yeah.
And
she's killing it too.
She's done well as both a heel and a face. Like I would say she is almost equivalent.
Yeah.
Like where her heel work and her face work are just as good as each other. But the fact that this Nikki Cross teaming has kind of been going on for almost the better part of a year, and for them finally to have a moment for like the two of them winning the titles, second time. But you know, it's cool to have them win it at WrestleMania. Kabuki Warriors, I think, got slightly derailed when Kairi Sane got injured, and they weren't sure how long she was going to be out. And that kind of, in general, derailed the women's tag team division. And but hopefully this is a little bit of a reminder that they still have a women's tag team division, and maybe get a couple more teams together and see what they do with it. But I dug the fact that they
Let's cross.
put them in, put them over. So,
like I said, one of three people who needed a victory, and I was 3 for 3 too. The three people I said that needed victories on this past weekend all got victories. So,
all right. So Chris brought up. So this week, Nia Jax did an interview. I forget what podcast it was on, but she more or less said that there was somebody that Alexa was wrestling that kept on injuring her, but Alexa wouldn't say anything. And Alexa was just soldiering on, and Nia won't say which superstar kept on injuring her, but it's kind of ironic since Nia is the one who injures everybody.
she almost killed Charlotte Flair. She almost killed Bayley. She's almost killed a lot of wrestlers.
So
She is the most reckless woman in the history of mankind.
But she more or less said that there was somebody out there that was reckless with Alexa and was causing her harm. So I don't know who it is, but again, it's kind of ironic coming from Nia Jax.
I agree.
So
we'd have to do some serious research. Like when was the last time Alexa was out of action?
Well, and it didn't say that she was out of action, but she was wrestling while hurt. Yes. But and more or less, Nia said that she went up to whoever that was and like,
I'm going to sit on you if you don't get.
I'm going to injure you in the ring.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So I don't know.
So you
all right. So a lot of fans are speculating that Nia was talking about Ronda Rousey.
Ooh,
interesting. But I think Ronda Rousey would be one of those cases similar to Brock Lesnar where because of the background, they need to make their stuff look a little bit more snug, and maybe perhaps Ronda is just not as seasoned. If it is Ronda, I think part of her thing would probably be a little bit more, lay it in there. Well, that's where she comes from.
Well, she did do an interview earlier this week, and she had come out and said that she loves all the women, she loves all that stuff, but the schedule was way too tough for her. She was like, it really sucked because if you want to be in it, because she's like, I'm not one of those people who half-asses anything. I go out there and I give 110% no matter what I do, which means I'm out on the road for 200 250 days out of the year. She's like, I'm only home for like a day and a half, and it really wasn't beneficial for me and my family because I wasn't spending that much time with my husband and everything. And that she said if she were to come back, it would be on a part-time schedule. However, she did say that there were certain fans out there who basically could go fuck themselves.
The ungrateful fans.
The ungrateful
she
fans.
calls them.
I loved having Ronda there. I did. I'm one of those people that having any Ronda Rousey is better than no Ronda Rousey. And
right.
I think that she's better off as a heel than a face anyway, but because she's more of a badass than anything else.
So, but so I think that's all the angles as far as that goes. So we had the Raw Tag Team Championships, the Street Profits going against Garza and Austin Theory, and Street Profits go over.
No surprise.
I'm happy for them. I didn't like how they were hot potatoing the Raw Tag Team Championships. So the fact that they kept it on the Street Profits, good for them.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're entertaining. And
Montez Ford is one hell of an athlete too.
he is. I mean, I was surprised. Like, I thought he killed himself when he did the flip outside the ring onto nothing. Like his spine looked like it hit the metal plate.
Right.
Like I was like, holy shit. But he looked like he had no dents in the fender. I'm sure he was probably a bit sore from that spot, but
that's what Bianca Belair is for. There it is. Hit it and quit it.
Thank you, sir. So, but yeah, good for these guys. Pretty solid match. And anytime you could get what's her name, my girl, outside the ring with all the faces she makes.
Zelina Vega.
See, look, my brain's going bad with the names today. I don't know why. But
I'm
Zelina
supposed to be the
Vega,
brainless one.
the faces she makes and the things she says are just like. And again, because there's no crowd, she's sitting there and screaming a bit more and being a bit more active as far as slamming on the mat or yeah. So
got it. Noted.
So I dug this.
If my math is correct, I think we only have 5 more matches to break down. The two main title matches. We
have Edge and Orton in a last man standing match.
I'm gonna bring up something, but I'm gonna save it but it has to do with this match.
Okay,
but I'm gonna save it for later on.
So my short feelings on this match are overall a solid match.
Agreed.
Went too long.
Agreed.
They probably could have cut 10 minutes out of this. I really like some of the spots that they did, and there was one spot in this match that apparently ruffled some feathers.
Quite a few of them.
And to an extent, I can understand why. So the spot that we're talking about was the weight spot with the weight belt, or not the weight belt, but they took the chain from the weights and were tying it around Edge's neck.
But you could clearly see like his arm was through it, so that he wasn't choking on it. It was basically there just to hold him up. But a lot of people took it as like, hey, this is him getting choked out the same way that Chris Benoit
choked out himself.
Himself, yes. So that's where a lot of wrestlers were pretty upset about that.
And a lot of them just like immediately it went to that. You know what? Especially for the ones that worked with and knew Chris Benoit, I could imagine where they're like, although I think there's only a few of them left.
Rey Mysterio.
And two of them were in the match.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I would assume that they probably that was part of their thinking, but part of me is kind of like going that this has been a super personal, I'm going to do anything that I can to you to get you to not answer the 10 count. So they used everything at their disposal. They were at the Performance Center, and the Performance Center has a weight room.
Yep.
Like that spot where he threw the weight at Orton, that was great. Maybe they could have done something different that was of similar ilk, but I don't know. Again, I'm not one of the people that was impacted by this, outside of, being a wrestling fan. So I don't know. I don't know. Is this people being too sensitive, or is this?
It's people being too sensitive, but the fact is, I've been saying that people have been sensitive for a very long time. So what I'm saying doesn't really need to hold water. But I 100% agree with you. It was a very entertaining match. I enjoyed it. It went way too long, and it definitely benefited from there not being any fans because matches like that, like the last man standing matches, falls count anywhere matches, those it's like yeah, the whole like oh my god fans interaction like oh my god they're in the crowd and everything, but it's like yeah they're in the crowd, but there's like 87 security guards surrounding them so that the fans can't get involved. So it kind of takes away some of the mystique of a match like that. So the fact that there was no fans in there actually made it more entertaining for me, and it was actually one of the matches that I thought benefited from no fans being there. I mean, obviously, every match benefited from no fans being there because Kevin Dunn couldn't do what Kevin Dunn does and do what Kevin Dunn doesn't do. Anyway,
Kevin Dunn, this is kind of what he ends up doing with Woodsy. It's all chewed up.
Yeah. Did you buy that from his Facebook or his website?
Yeah, I did.
KevinDunn.com. Did you pay $39.99 for that thing?
No,
shipping.
No, it was a little less. It was $29.99 because they had a coronavirus fire sale. Yeah. But I like that Edge kind of had like a new submission ending move that choked out Orton, and he literally told the referee, "No, you're not counting 10," because the story that they told and how they ended the story of the match, they launched their feud with Orton slamming the chair on Edge's head.
Concerto.
To me, a true concerto is when two people are smashing the one from one side, one from the other, because that's what Edge and Christian did.
Potato.
But either way, but Edge ended this match with that. So they started with it, they ended with it. The heel started by doing it. The babyface ended up going over by giving comeuppance to the vile heel.
Right.
So, I mean, that again, entertaining, a little bit too long, could have been cut shorter. And one little caveat I'm going to go off of this is they had the special on Edge on, and it was, I think they put it out the day of WrestleMania, but they had the actual debut showing live on the network after, I think, Saturday night, maybe. I forget if it was Saturday night or Sunday night. But do yourself a favor, check out that documentary. It's really awesome. Originally, the idea for the documentary was, it was like, what's Edge doing now?
Right.
When they started making it, they had no idea that he was coming back. And he makes it pretty clear in the documentary, like, it wasn't until fairly recently that they before the Royal Rumble, it wasn't that long before where they finally yes, you're okay to do that. And to not have people see him at the Performance Center, literally he's like, hey, I need you guys to give me a ring. So they gave him a ring, and he mostly was wrestling with Beth to kind of knock off the rust, but also had Dash Wilder, because Dash Wilder was this dude who happened to go to the same gym that Edge did, and actually Edge said Wilder never told him he was a professional wrestler. He was just like a bodybuilder at that point, and Edge was like, I got a lot of respect for him because he did not do that. Mm-hmm. And he's like going, hey, shit, man, if I knew you were a wrestler, I could have helped you out. He's like, no, but so Wilder ended up helping Edge train to come back. So, speaking of documentaries, we brought this up a little bit earlier, Monsef. Yes, I have seen the Brawl for All documentary. The Brainless one has not. So I don't want to ruin too much of that for the Brainless one. I'll let him get his chance to see that before we chat that up.
I already know the concept of what happens with the brawl for. I've seen
But you need to see it. Our boy Vince Russo is there, bro, and you get to hear. You get to hear Vince Russo talk about his reasoning for it, and then you get to hear Jim Cornette absolutely dump on him. It is one.
Can we just finally get Vince Russo and James E. Cornette to fight? Just literally fight each other. Just let them fight. That's all we want.
At WrestleMania.
That doesn't have to be at WrestleMania.
WrestleMania.
Just put it on the network.
You know what? Put it in NWA Power.
No.
Brother. No. Vince Russo says bro.
He's a fucking ass clown. He killed Owen Hart. Fuck Vince Russo.
Yeah. All right. So then we have Braun Strowman going against Goldberg.
Now let's break this down quicker than the match actually happened.
So as far as seeing this match and how it went down, I was like, going, oh, okay, this is fine. Goldberg shouldn't be in long matches, and he ended up hitting 3 spears on Strowman before Strowman kind of finally turned the tides on him.
After he failed to get the jackhammer on him, and then he hit Goldberg with 3 power slams or 4 power slams, and then got the victory. And Braun Strowman is now your new Universal Champion.
Again, this works fine based off of the 2 people in the ring. What ended up being the problem for me is what happened in the title match the next night.
Which is a hell of a segue, where we got Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar.
Where, in essence, we got the same damn match.
Tommy's right. A total of 2 moves were basically done.
Literally, it's like whoever was producing the heavyweight title match, were they the same one producing the Universal title match? Because, in essence, it was the same thing. Just a bunch of ending moves. Except for, I guess Brock threw in the German suplex. But, I mean, if it happens once, fine. But, I love, and I say this a lot, I love the Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg match from WrestleMania 33.
Mm-hmm.
They had more than 2 moves. They had more than 3 moves. It went on for 10 minutes. It was the perfect length. To me, these were lesser childs of that match. And these 2 matches, literally were if you sat there and said, hey, let's make a carbon copy of what we did on night 1 and put it on night 2, because that's what they did. So Vince McMahon, as the overall producer, is the one to blame for this. He should have said, no, we did this match on night 1. We need to do something a little different.
I heard he said, that's good shit, pal.
He did say that.
Technically, yes. Somewhat.
But Drew McIntyre did go over, won the title, and he said he actually broke one of WWE's rules, and good for him, where you're not supposed to sit there and specifically, after your match, talk to the camera and do with the camera, but McIntyre's there are no fans here. I want to have a moment where I can reach out and touch them, so to speak. So that's what he did to the camera, is his way of celebrating with everybody worldwide. And good for him, big moment. And I saw the documentary they did on Drew McIntyre, and he was super disappointed that WrestleMania wasn't going to be in front of a large crowd. Felt like after getting fired that this was going to be, his crowning moment of achievement in front of
70, 80,000 people.
And it wasn't.
In front of 0.
Yeah. And in front of
Kevin Dunn and
Michael Cole.
And all of his beavers that were the only things allowed in the building because they're susceptible to the coronavirus.
So those 2 matches were what they were. Again, not my favorite 2 matches. It would have been fine if the Goldberg-Strowman match was what it was, and the McIntyre match was a little different, and it just wasn't. So, oh well. But we come to the 2 most interesting matches of the entire weekend and two of the more interesting matches in WWE history. Which one do you want to start with?
We got into the Boneyard match.
All right.
The main event from night one, which was the Boneyard match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. I love the fact that the hearse comes up and it's playing The Undertaker's music and the casket comes out and AJ Styles is actually in the casket. I was like, all right, that's an ultimate troll job. I'm fucking digging this.
And then the American Badass.
And then Jeff's favorite wrestler of all time, the American Bad Taker, came out in his motorcycle and everything, which was really cool and everything. A little backlight to this story is the Undertaker was backstage one day after his match against Goldberg was an absolute
train wreck
shit bomb, and he was talking to Kurt Angle about it. And he was questioning whether or not he was going to continue to wrestle, and he had said, he's like, I kind of need one of those matches to redeem my credibility and reputation. And Kurt goes, why don't you fight AJ Styles? AJ Styles, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, and I'm going to keep saying it, AJ Styles going to have a 4-star match against a mop because it's AJ Styles. And he is a tremendous in-ring performer. In my opinion, he's one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. As an in-ring performer, specifically as an in-ring performer. He's gotten better on the mic over years. And that time in Japan definitely helped.
Can the Brainless one have a 4-star match against a blow-up? Now, that's a big question.
Only time will tell. And thanks to the coronavirus,
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. But the way that they produced the Boneyard match was different. It definitely had more of a cinema feel to it than an actual wrestling match. But I dug it. 100% I dug it. What were your thoughts?
It was my favorite match of the weekend. The way I described it to somebody is I felt like it was as if you took Final Deletion and you had the backlot brawl and combined them into kind of one thing. And, you know, they used bits of The Undertaker's character for this because, like, there was the part where AJ was, like, you know, knocked him out with a shovel.
Yeah.
All right, how's this dude going to get up? He's sitting there in there for a while, and then, like, AJ gets on the tractor and is about to dump the dirt in, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, from behind, The Undertaker's there. Now, in general, you're like going, that's hokey. It's like going, no, it's The Undertaker's character. He's a dead man. He raises from the dead. You don't need to see him. Like,
it's a shame it didn't happen this weekend, you know, with Easter and everything, where he rose from the dead.
Hey, but because, like, that's The Undertaker's character, it makes complete sense for the storyline that they were doing. Now, it's kind of funny that The Undertaker took on, like, 20 guys, and AJ Styles was just taking on The Undertaker with the 20 guys helping him. But Undertaker came off looking like a complete badass, and it was fucking awesome. I loved this thing, everything about it. You could tell Jeremy Borash had his hands all over this match, and, you know, he was the one who was the producer and came up with a lot of the stuff for the Final Deletion. It was he and Matt Hardy in conjunction, but you could tell completely Jeremy Borash. And supposedly, for the most part, the match itself, they did basically in one take. There were a couple of things I guess they had to shoot at different angles to get things. But for the most part, they set it up and they went.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
I think that with just the Boneyard match delivering in the way that it did would have made WrestleMania the last weekend better than WrestleMania 9. And even if they just had subpar matches, the rest of the card, it still was going to be better than WrestleMania 9. But then Vince McMahon delivered to us the Firefly Funhouse.
Before you get into that, I just want to point this out. Nicole is watching right now, and you look on that Facebook feed, where is Nicole's face?
It's in 2 spots.
It's over Darth fucking Vader's face.
How about that? I was going to say, it's also on my shirt.
Nicole, you are Darth Vader.
And she's on 2 different outlets at the same time, too.
Yeah?
She's on the Twitter somehow, and she's on the Facebook at the same time.
Yeah.
So, very impressive. She's like The Undertaker.
Yeah.
She was over here in the Twitter. She's still there, but somehow she managed to end up on Facebook too.
So, and just like that, the wacky world of the Firefly Funhouse came into our lives.
Like I said, I didn't know what to expect with the Firefly Funhouse. I don't think anybody knew what to expect in the Firefly Funhouse. I had a few ideas that it could have been, and what we got was so much better than what it could have been. The fact that John Cena ended up in the Firefly Funhouse, and then he ended up and teleported to the ring, and he basically came out in his original attire, and it was just basically a trip down memory lane for John Cena as why he, where he became, where he started, and where he led to, and all that stuff, and also led to him being in the NWO, which for whatever reason I don't understand that, but
so all right. So my slight explanation for that: Cena is the Hogan of this generation.
yes, I agree.
The NWO was when Hogan finally made the heel turn. So that was internally Cena within himself doing the heel turn. It didn't ever happen. Cena started off as a heel, Hogan started off as a heel, but once he became the guy, he never turned again.
Right.
Hogan, after he became the guy, it took him over a decade before he finally. It took a lot of convincing to get him to decide to become a heel,
and it
paid off. It extended his career for another decade.
Yep. And then came back to WWE, and they freaking cheered him out of the building at WrestleMania 18. I mean, and I think, and the fact that he tried to come out as the heel, and there was no, you're Hulk Hogan. There's only one way we react to Hulk Hogan in this
Canada,
and just in WWE in general. Just they're going to cheer the shit out of him, and it's and I think that took that kind of, he was taken aback by the fact that the fans were cheering him going nuts for
despite the fact that he tried to kill The Rock.
Yeah.
So,
but I was thoroughly entertained by the Firefly Funhouse. The fact that John Cena basically threw shade at himself during the match was rather entertaining. I don't even know if we even count Cena losing to The Fiend as an actual loss, because it was Bray Wyatt who counted for The Fiend. Somehow he kind of Nicoled himself and put himself in two different locations where he had the mandible claw on Cena and got the pin, but it was Bray Wyatt that counted. But either way, it was fucking awesome. It was wow.
So for me as a match, I didn't love it, but as a cinematic and storytelling thing, I liked it all.
Were you entertained?
I was entertained.
That's all that matters at the end of the day. Because like Stephanie McMahon said before the show on Saturday, we are here to give you an outlet from the coronavirus and all this stuff. You need something to take your mind off of everything that's going on in this world. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't promote it as in this is all about wrestling and everything about this. This is all about entertaining the fans. And at the end of the day, the fans were entertained last weekend. I personally was entertained. I enjoyed WrestleMania a hell of a lot more than I thought I was going to. I really put a lot of negative thinking into this and didn't really want to give it a chance. And I'm so glad that I was very pessimistic about WrestleMania, because I thought it delivered better than it ever could have.
And we would have never gotten the Boneyard match or the Firefly Funhouse if it wasn't for the coronavirus. So,
but hindsight, on the other side, the flip side of this, if it wasn't for the coronavirus, I would have been in Tampa Bay, and I would have seen Edge's first singles match in WWE in 9 years, which would have been that right there alone was one of the main reasons why I was super excited about going to WrestleMania this year. But at the end of the day, I agree. Tommy said it the best. It was good for what it was, but he missed the crowd, and I agree with that. But like I said, at the end of the day, people were entertained. Most people were entertained.
Yeah.
Big C was not entertained.
No.
Well, when you're stuck in the 80s with James E. Cornette and feel and think a certain way, and the fact that,
it's ironic that he's stuck in the 80s, even though he was barely even alive then.
1988.
So, but I enjoyed WrestleMania, but it was definitely just not the same without the crowd. So,
She's ought to be in the same league as Vader.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
So, another news and note thing that didn't bring up last week because it was WrestleMania last week. AEW is coming out with a secondary title called, I believe, the TNT title, which, at least my belief of this is TNT title is going to basically be the TV title.
Correct.
So, a different name than TV title.
You know what that means, right? Arn Anderson needs to win that title. The greatest television champion of all time. Don't even freaking.
I don't think he's like Arn Anderson could do offense. I think he had basically I think the next fusion surgery before it was perfected, and that's why he stopped wrestling. I don't think he could take bumps, and it would be hard for him to lose the title. I mean, I guess they figured it out with Brett with the U.S. title all those years ago, but I don't know. Credibility-wise, I don't think that would. It'd be nice to see, Arn Anderson won the TNT title, but unless it was something like the 24/7 title where it's
the finger poke of doom,
you could safely get it off him without killing him.
Yeah,
but I'm interested to see where they're going to go with this. I think they've got brackets, and I want to say it's a 16-man tournament, and it's supposed to take a few months.
Yes, something like that.
So,
but I know Cody Rhodes is in that tournament. Lance Archer is also in there. Darby Allin is another person that's in there.
Yeah.
I think MJF is in that tournament too.
Perhaps.
I'd have to really look at the tournament to see who's actually in it. But I'm pretty sure they already started the tournament last week, because I know that because a lot of people were crucifying WWE for what they were doing, and they were like, yeah, that's so much better than watching Chris Archer fight a child, because he fought Marco Stunt.
Right.
He's like a child, basically. It's the one thing I will say is that how AEW fans feel like they're better than WWE, and it's like, really? I'm like, they haven't been around a year, but you're already acting like oh, you're better, and it's like, oh, you could shit on WWE for what it is, and it's like, if it wasn't for WWE, none of this would ever happen.
I come back to the argument when it comes to WWE. I love Cherry Garcia. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. What is the top-selling brand of or flavor of ice cream in the world?
Should be chocolate chip cookie dough.
What is it, though?
It's vanilla ice cream. Because vanilla ice cream is the most universal ice cream of all the flavors of ice cream.
What's WWE? They are the vanilla of professional wrestling. They have other things within that structure that are not super vanilla, but if you're talking about within the wrestling universe, they are the vanilla. I'm sorry, that it's what they are. They're the most popular thing in town, and being an elitist snob as a wrestling fan, to me, is just fucking hilarious. I mean, we have seen all manner of folks in wrestling crowds over the years. I don't think there's any room for any of us to be elitist snobs in any aspects of our lives.
Now, what are you trying to insinuate, Jay? What do you think it was like the hillbillies I saw over in what was it, Westbrook, Mass, or
Webster,
Mass, when I went to see Rob Van Dam,
mm-hmm.
and he talked about how the guy who spelled Rob a different way than normal people spell their names, and I wish I had smoked with Rob Van Dam 7 years ago, but didn't. Or are you talking about the guy who brought the bag of kitty litter and the cat toys who smelled like donkey shit that we saw at one of the independent shows that we went to? Who shall remain nameless.
How about the NXT show?
I was gonna get there. Or are we gonna talk about the guy with the man bun who smelled like a combination of barbershop powder and $2.99 Walmart brand cologne, who was just an absolute idiot, who was asking questions that you shouldn't have been asking.
Who thought no way Jose was an African American,
and he asked that question to his African American girlfriend.
Mm.
The man bun was what did it, and he had to sit right next to me too. Like there was open seats around me. He literally had to sit next to me. It took me until about 6 months ago to get my freaking the nose.
Your nostrils are back. They're working again.
I couldn't smell for like 6 months after that show because that guy stunk so bad, and it didn't even smell terrible. I mean. If I had a choice between sitting next to him and the kitty litter guy, I'd rather sit next to that guy.
Yeah.
Because the kitty litter guy smelled like donkey shit. Or just in
Anyway.
general, all the wrestling fans. But
So another interesting thing that Chris brought up this week is after talking with Edge and seeing the Edge documentary, Graves, I don't know if he's sitting there really thinking hard about this, but he said it's inspired him to possibly think of returning to the ring.
he said if he could get the right doctors to sign off on him going back into the ring, and it's not just Edge, it's also with Daniel Bryan returning.
Well, and Daniel Bryan is more of the case because Corey Graves went away because of concussions, not because of injured neck. So, but Graves has now been away from the ring for 6 years, I believe, which is longer than Bryan was. Is it out of the realm of possibility? Probably not, but, what I would say, if I were advising Corey Graves, and not that he would ever listen to me, Daniel Bryan was a top star. Edge was a top star. And those guys, when they came back, there was a lot of people wanting to see them in the ring. Corey Graves was a tag team champion in NXT. It looked like that maybe he was going to start doing something beyond that, but he never got beyond that. If he came back, people would know him as the commentator. I don't know if there would be this big swell of reaction. Now, there might be something internally in him that says, I want to do this. I have to do this. But I think in general, it'd be a bad idea because then is he going to go back out on the road 300 days a year? He's got a new relationship and he's got kids. I don't know. But is that dream still there where like, hey, I want to be main roster WWE or I want to be wrestling in a match at WrestleMania? Or maybe, hey, I want to do the Royal Rumble. I would think that would be a better thing for him. Go to the Royal Rumble like a few years with Mick Foley when, he had all sorts of concussions and injury issues. Have him have that one spot with Santino, have a little entertaining thing, and gets thrown out without, injuring himself. I don't know. But I just don't, again, as far as like an attraction or something like that, I don't think it would be a good idea.
I don't either.
So.
But never say never.
So. Oh, and Chris is saying, who would go next to Michael Cole on SmackDown if Graves were to go back in the ring? And who knows? Short term, they could probably bring JBL back, but I know JBL, he said that he was stepping away from WWE so he could do more of the good things on Bermuda. Which I think it was more of like JBL, what you did to Mauro Ranallo was kind of shitty. You need to step back from us. But I would say JBL.
Or Booker T.
Yeah.
They could always bring back David Otunga.
Sure.
You seem enthusiastic by that.
Sure.
So with that, I say we segue into the good, the bad, and the brainless.
All right.
So what was your good for this week?
Boneyard match. This thing was my favorite thing of WrestleMania weekend, and it delivered in more ways than I can explain. I love this match. It reestablished The Undertaker and AJ Styles doing what he does, and just stealing the show.
I'm going to go with WrestleMania as a whole because with everything that was involved with the coronavirus, we didn't know what kind of a show we were going to get from WrestleMania. And they delivered. I was entertained, and I couldn't have been happy. I couldn't have been happier. Yes, there was moments about WrestleMania that I didn't like, mainly the three main women's championship matches and a couple other minuscule matches. But as a whole, I was thoroughly entertained. On the whole, Preparation H feels good. Yes,
You're right.
I agree. No, I agree. Preparation H does feel good
On the whole.
Anyway, sorry, I had to go there. So what is your bad for this week?
My bad for this week is the two heavyweight championship matches, which more or less were carbon copies of each other. Come on, man. It came off as lazy and uninspired. Whereas you get something like the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match that were super inspired. They're like going, shit, man, that was way different and way more than I expected.
Yeah.
You got these two matches that were just... so the poor booking of these two matches was my bad for the week.
I'm going to go with, like I said, the only matches that really upset me at WrestleMania this weekend, or this past weekend, I'm sorry, and what was the Raw, NXT, and SmackDown Women's Championship matches. You had an opportunity, especially in 2 of the 3 matches, to promote and build up some new, younger talent, to give them some exposure and have them have opportunities to win championships, mainly Rhea Ripley retaining the championship against Charlotte, and even Lacey Evans winning the title against Bayley for the SmackDown one. I get, like, Shayna Baszler, not going over on Becky Lynch, because, like you said, it doesn't look like that was the blow-off match, and this feud is going to continue. And obviously it looks like you're building towards Sasha Banks and Bayley fighting for the SmackDown championship, or hell, I mean, we can even get Tamina Snuka to finally win a women's championship in her entire career and everything. Should I continue that bet? Like, if she actually wins the SmackDown Women's title, I have to do one of those stupid things. But
no.
Right,
if you decide you want to do it just because, then you can.
The ideas Nicole was throwing out to me last weekend, I've never wanted to see a human being lose more in my life, except for maybe Nia Jax.
Right.
But I think that they really dropped the ball because they had an opportunity to build up some new, younger women in the women's division. And that's been something I've been very adamant about, how they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing the 4 horsewomen of WWE. Because if you think about it, last year with the women's tag team match, it was Sasha Banks and Bayley defending the title. Obviously, the Iconics were the super curveball that they threw. Hell, it was a fucking slider. But the fact that Charlotte and Becky were both in the main event with Ronda last year, and it just seems like they just keep doing the same thing over and over again instead of them building different women up for that division.
Now, as much as I know it's your bad, like, the one thing I would say with them, the only minor caveat, I would say the women have not been taken seriously until the last, 3 years. So you can't say that these people have been, like, established for a long time.
No, but
they've been established for a long time based off of how long this thing has finally been pushed.
correct.
But I understand. Hey, Charlotte has been at the top of the card since the beginning of when they started doing this. I wouldn't say Bayley was. Bayley in the last year, yes, has been, because she was always the one kind of left behind. Whenever she had a title run, it was pretty short and her feuds were not memorable. She finally had some memorable feuds and she won some matches where everybody's like, I wasn't expecting her to win.
Here's an interesting thought. She is the only woman in the history of WWE to successfully defend the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships at WrestleMania.
Okay, there you go. But yeah,
I just think that they had an opportunity to
They
do
did.
something different, and they just kept going with the same thing. And it just seems like this is the 3rd year in a row at WrestleMania that they've just promoted the 4 horsewomen. And I just feel like, especially, I think it's a personal thing because I am a huge fan of Lacey Evans. She is my favorite woman in all of the women's divisions, and I do love Rhea Ripley because she is so good and she's so young, and that NXT should have been built around her, but it is what it is.
all right.
Brainless. I can't fucking wait.
All right, my brainless for this week is all the stuff that happened with the Revival. The WWE botched everything with the Revival once they got up to the main roster. Basically, Revival just wanted, hey, don't treat us like a joke. And whenever they won, like, the tag team championships, they would lose in non-title matches. And when they didn't have the tag team championships, they were treated as a joke. And if you wanted them to go out and have a good match, they would always put on a good match. They were kind of the Dolph Ziggler of the tag team division. Hey, we need you to put over this team because we need them to look good.
Yep.
Even though we're going to then crap on the entire division. So they just botched the Revival. They could have used the Revival in some of the other teams that they have to rebuild the tag team division into something credible. But they decided to not do it. And, the Revival are going to take the talents to most likely to AEW. And you know what? AEW likes tag teams, and they'll be treated with some respect.
Well, there's going to be a lot of good matchups that they're going to have in NXT or at AEW too. Obviously the match that everybody's looking forward to is the Revival versus the Young Bucks. But I mean, even the Best Friends are a really good tag team.
Oh, you put them in against any of those teams.
Dark Order is a fucking fantastic tag team.
The
Private
Lucha
Party.
Brothers.
The Lucha Brothers is up there for me too. I think that's a good landing spot for them. But my brainless for this week goes to somebody who I've vehemently thrown my venom at on a pretty regular basis. In this, do you even know where I'm going?
There's one of a couple of places. So
Dave fucking Meltzer gets my brainless for this week.
Okay.
Dave Meltzer came out there and basically verbally blasted WrestleMania for what it was. Look, you old, broken down, fucked up, retarded piece of shit, has been unnecessary member of the wrestling community. First of all, I don't know who it was who died and made you the czar of professional wrestling, that because it's you, that you feel like you can do these 5-star matches. Mr. I can't even give Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat 5 stars. You can fucking kiss my ass for that. Number one, it was there to be entertaining. It was there to be a distraction from everything that was going on. And you had to go out there, well, I've never been more bored at a wrestling match in my entire life than the Edge-Randy Orton match. They told a fucking story. It was a blood feud between the two of them, and this was the final culmination of this. A match that should have happened many years ago if it wasn't for the fact that Edge had the neck injury and was forced to retire. Then you go out there and just blast the entire show. It wasn't real wrestling because there wasn't. It's like, dude, come on, Dave. The fact that you're going out there and rating these matches, and you're just so against what WrestleMania was, instead of looking at it as a certain way, that it was a distraction from what is going on, and it was entertaining to say the least, and then you just had to go and just take a giant shit on WrestleMania. It blows my mind that I hate Dave Meltzer so much. I really do. If I was ever in the room with Dave Meltzer, if I was in a room and I had a gun, if I had a gun and 2 bullets and I was in the room with Kevin Owens, Kevin Dunn, and freaking Dave Meltzer, I'd shoot Meltzer twice.
Wow.
If I was in a room with Carol Baskin and freaking Dave Meltzer with a gun and 2 bullets, I'm shooting Dave Meltzer twice.
Okay.
And I'm shooting.
Even if she had a tiger?
Even if she had a tiger, I'd still shoot Dave Meltzer twice.
Because she'd feed you to the tiger.
I understand. I'd still shoot Dave Meltzer twice. I fucking hate Dave Meltzer. The only person that has any ties to wrestling that I hate... I'm sorry, no. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. The only person in wrestling who has any kind of ties to wrestling that I hate more than Dave Meltzer is Vince fucking Russo. Because Dave Meltzer just thinks that he is the fucking czar of professional wrestling. Vince Russo killed Owen Hart. And that's the only reason I hate Vince Russo more than I hate Dave Meltzer, except for maybe the fact that he put the title on David Arquette. Vince Russo is just a waste of a human being. He shouldn't even have a fucking pulse. Dave Meltzer just thinks that he is like, oh, I'm the czar of wrestling. I can call wrestling matches the way I am. People should listen to me because I'm Dave Meltzer and I can write for wrestling. Well, I can write articles for wrestling too. Maybe I should come out there. Maybe I'll just start delivering 5-star match reviews and everything like that. How would you feel about that, Dave Meltzer? You piece of shit. Fuck you.
Love it.
He fucking started it. The sad part is, Jay, there was a last second entry to be the brainless for this week that could have surpassed Dave Meltzer because somehow, some way, last night on SmackDown, when there's no fans in the building, Kevin Dunn found a way to fuck up a shot on the fucking bro kick that Sheamus delivered to the local competitor that he beat. I'm like, how do you do that? It's not like you're looking at Joey in the fucking 4th row eating a pretzel going, oh my God, I'm on TV or whatever it was. And you somehow fucked up the bro kick, you stupid piece of shit. Just like you almost did at WrestleMania 28, you jackass. But I had
just like he did with Edge. When Edge returned, he fucked up Edge's return.
I'd love to be the referee in the Dave Meltzer versus Kevin Dunn match because I would beat the shit out of both of them with a chair, holding these balloons.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it.
Wait.
Hold on. Excuse me. If you like what you have seen from this episode, whether you're a first-time viewer or you are a continuous viewer and fan of this podcast, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Periscope, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow, and subscribe to us on those outlets, we will do the same to you. Also, make sure you tune into the Wrestling Marks page, which is facebook.com/WrestleMarks, and set the notifications so that when we do go live on the podcast, you will be notified. Also, if you want one of our wonderful T-shirts, they are $20 plus shipping and handling. I think we might just put a kind of...
Well, and maybe something that we could do is we have a couple of things in the works, and we'll get into... Maybe we'll be able to make a deal with people in the future. I've got a deal.
All right. Okay. All right.
And we'll discuss it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
But I mean, we also have some other things that I'm also working on.
Well, that's part of the things I'm talking about.
As the wonderful brain of the brainless one. Somehow you don't have a brain, you still have a brain or some shit like that. But anyway, that's that. Jimmy Spalding is done.
Wait. Do I have to do it again?
Wait. There was a Boneyard match at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
Wait. The Revival got released from WWE? Wait. Matt Hardy is in AEW? Wait. Are you trying to tell me that today, April 11th of 2020, at an astonishing 1,910 days, Epic Marks Hall of Famer, Curtis Axel, is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble?
Yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody.
So for episode 171 of the Epic Marks podcast,
I'm Jay.
and I am the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
With your guac out. See you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Get you.
Fuck Meltzer!